In a world often clouded by fear, doubt, and misinformation, Hans Rosling stood as a beacon of clarity, showing us that data, hope, and a new perspective could transform how we see our lives. Today, we journey into that same spirit of transformation, but through a different lens, the power of belief, not belief in statistics or trends, but belief in your dreams. Because behind every breakthrough, every global shift, and every personal victory is someone who dared to believe when others doubted. If you're ready to challenge your mindset, shift your focus from limitations to possibilities, and light the fire of unshakable belief within you, then this message is for you. Dreams are not fantasies. They are possibilities waiting for your belief to activate them. When we talk about dreams, many people immediately associate them with wishful thinking or idle hope. They see dreams as far-off desires disconnected from reality. But this perception is not only limiting, it's fundamentally inaccurate. Hans Rosling taught us to look at the world with data-driven optimism, challenging myths and revealing how much progress humanity has actually made. In the same way, our dreams deserve that same level of realism, not in dismissing them, but in understanding that they are not abstract illusions. They are projections of what could be if only we commit to them with the same faith and effort we give to everything else that matters. Dreams begin in the imagination, but they are meant to be carried out in the world. And that bridge between imagination and reality is belief. Not passive belief, but belief backed by intention, action, and persistence. When a child dreams of being a scientist or an artist or a leader, they are not fantasizing in the negative sense. They are expressing a potential reality. The only thing that separates those who realize their dreams from those who don't is the level of belief they assign to those visions. Belief in this context acts like fuel. Without it, the dream remains parked. With it, the journey begins. Look around you at the world's greatest achievements. Every innovation, every movement, every moment of transformation started with a single person who believed something different was possible. That belief didn't guarantee success, but it made the pursuit unstoppable. Belief influences how we show up, how we solve problems, and how we persist when things don't go our way. And the power of belief is measurable. It changes the way we think, the way we act, and even the way others respond to us. Hans Rosling's work in global health and development consistently showed how data could shift perception. In the same way, belief shifts perception within us. It reframes what is possible and gives strength to face resistance. There is a common myth that only certain people are allowed to dream big, those born into privilege, those with perfect timing, those with ideal circumstances. But history shows us something very different. Some of the most world-changing people came from the most unlikely places. What they had in common wasn't money or status. It was vision and belief. They refused to see their dreams as fantasies and instead treated them as blueprints. They worked toward them not just with hope, but with discipline and persistence. They made their dreams tangible by believing in them enough to act on them every single day. Belief is a multiplier. When you believe in your dream, you begin to speak differently, plan differently, and make decisions that align with where you're going, not where you are. That shift in mindset is crucial. You may not have the resources today. You may not have the support, but belief doesn't wait for the world to validate you. It starts as an inner commitment. And just like Rosling used his laser pointer and animated charts to show how the world was improving behind the headlines, you too can reveal progress in your own life that others might not see. Your belief lets you track invisible growth. Every step, every lesson, every small win is a data point that proves you're moving forward. The biggest threat to your dream isn't failure, it's indifference. When you stop believing, you stop trying. When you stop trying, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, the dream fades, but belief keeps the dream alive. It doesn't need to be loud or flashy. Sometimes belief is quiet and stubborn. It's what makes you wake up and try again. It's what pushes you to learn something new, to reach out for help, to stay in the game when quitting would be easier. Belief creates momentum, and momentum makes the impossible look doable. Most people underestimate what belief can actually do. They think it's soft, emotional, or irrelevant, but belief is what moves people to act. Belief gets investors to fund ideas. Belief gets artists to create when there's no applause. Belief gets educators to teach when no one is listening yet. Belief is the backbone of change, and once you believe, truly believe in your dream, you start to infect others with that same energy. That's how movements begin. That's how goals are realized. It's not about waiting for permission. It's about starting where you are with what you have and letting your belief light the way. Data shows progress often begins with one person daring to think differently. Your belief can spark that change. In a world overflowing with information and statistics, it's easy to assume that progress is always driven by large systems or institutions. But when we take a closer look, especially through the lens of thinkers like Hans Rosling, what we often find is that major shifts start with individuals. These are people who, against the odds, decide to believe in something different, something better. They question the norms, challenge the trends, and most importantly, act on their belief in a better possibility. Their belief becomes a catalyst, initiating a ripple effect that leads to wider transformation. When we examine global development through Hans Rosling's data, we see that many of the countries that have risen from poverty to progress did so not because of immediate wealth or power, but because of determined leadership, bold thinking, and belief in change. This belief often began in the hearts of just a few individuals, health workers, teachers, reformers, and dreamers, who imagined a different outcome for their people. They dared to believe that things could improve, even when the statistics looked bleak. That belief ignited action, and action led to real results. In your own life, the same principle applies. You don't need a massive following or unlimited resources. What you need is the courage to think differently and the commitment to believe deeply in your vision. Belief is not about ignoring facts. It's about interpreting facts through a lens of possibility rather than limitation. Hans Rosling used powerful visuals to show how the world was getting better in areas like child mortality, education, and income, despite the often negative headlines. He taught us that our world, could be distorted by fear and outdated information. The same distortion happens internally when we allow past failures, societal expectations, or limited thinking to shape how we view our dreams. But just as data can be updated, our self-belief can be recalibrated. We can choose to believe in our capacity to grow, to create, and to influence the future. When you decide to believe in your dream, even when it doesn't yet exist in your reality, you begin to interact with the world differently. You start noticing opportunities others miss. You take actions others are too afraid to take. You move from reacting to creating. This shift in mindset is where all innovation begins. Every great invention, every movement for justice, every work of art started with someone who refused to think like the crowd. They saw what wasn't there yet. They believed in it long enough for it to take shape. That belief didn't guarantee immediate success, but it created a direction, a new trajectory that changed everything. Belief also changes how others respond to you. Confidence, conviction, and passion are contagious. When you believe in your dream with clarity and consistency, people start to take notice. They listen differently. They engage differently. They start to believe with you, and that shared belief amplifies your impact. What begins as a personal decision becomes a collective movement. History is filled with examples of individuals whose beliefs sparked revolutions, both political and personal. They didn't wait for ideal conditions. They created momentum through the force of their conviction. That's the kind of belief that turns ideas into action and dreams into reality. Even in scientific progress, breakthroughs often come from someone who thinks against the grain. They see data differently. They test assumptions others have accepted without question. They push boundaries not because they are reckless, but because they believe there's more to discover. Your dream requires the same mindset. It requires you to challenge assumptions, not just the world's, but your own. You might believe you're not ready, not talented enough, or not supported. But those are beliefs too, and they can be changed. When you choose a new belief, one that supports your dream, you begin rewriting the data of your own life. We live in a world where access to information is more widespread than ever, but transformation still begins with personal belief. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't believe in yourself, you won't apply it. Hans Rosling's strength wasn't just his data, it was his ability to communicate it with optimism and clarity. He believed people could understand the world better if given the right tools and mindset. That same belief applies to your dream. You can shape your future if you are willing to think differently, act boldly, and trust your vision. The world improves not through magic, but through vision, effort, and those who refuse to give up. It is tempting to look at progress and assume it happens on its own, that change somehow finds a way to occur without persistent human will. But behind every shift in society, behind every innovation, behind every improvement in how we live, is a long story of struggle, persistence, and unwavering dedication. Hans Rosling's work reminded us again and again that the world has improved in many ways. Child mortality has declined, education has expanded, life expectancy has risen, but none of these advancements came from wishful thinking. They came from people who believed improvement was possible and worked with clarity, data, and conviction to make it real. The idea that vision drives progress is central to any meaningful change. Vision is not just the ability to see what is, it is the ability to imagine what could be. Visionaries are not people lost in dreams. They are people rooted in purpose. They see the problems, the gaps, the inequalities, but instead of becoming cynical or defeated, they use their minds to imagine solutions. That kind of vision fuels determination. It gives people the motivation to keep pushing when results are slow, when critics are loud, and when failure seems more likely than success. Vision is the blueprint that keeps a person anchored when the outcome is uncertain. It gives direction and clarity in times of confusion. Effort is the second ingredient in the equation. Belief without effort is empty. The people who change the world are the ones who wake up every day and work toward their goals even when the work is not glamorous. They put in the hours that nobody sees. They study when others are relaxing. They build when others are doubting, and they keep going when the excitement has worn off. Effort is where belief turns into results. It is what transforms abstract dreams into measurable outcomes. Hans Rosling didn't just hope the world would get better. He spent years collecting data, building presentations, writing books, and teaching others so that people could see and understand the truth of our progress. That effort built trust and sparked learning, and in doing so, it helped change global conversations. Refusing to give up is what holds the entire process together. It is easy to be excited at the start of a journey. It is easy to believe in your dream when things are fresh and full of energy, but real growth demands endurance. Challenges will come, unexpected problems, criticism, rejection, disappointment. These are not signs that the dream is wrong. They are part of the process. Those who make a difference are the ones who accept that resistance is part of the journey and choose to persist anyway. They adapt, they adjust, and they keep moving forward. Quitting is easy, continuing is hard, but continuing is what leads to breakthroughs. Every time someone decides not to give up, they prove that determination is more powerful than any obstacle. In the context of personal dreams, this same formula applies. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions or external approval. You need a clear vision of what you want, a willingness to work for it, and the resolve to keep going even when progress is invisible. People often confuse slow progress with failure, but they are not the same. Growth often happens quietly. Roots grow underground long before a plant breaks through the surface. Belief must be paired with consistent effort and the ability to endure. That combination is what creates transformation over time. There is no magic switch that makes dreams come true overnight, but there is a path built with vision, effort, and persistence. The people we admire in history, science, art, and activism all had moments when it would have been easier to stop. But they kept going. They believed not just in their dream, but in the value of the process itself. They trusted that their effort mattered, that their vision had power, and that their ability to keep going would eventually lead them to where they needed to be. The truth is, anyone can choose that mindset. It is not reserved for the extraordinary. It is available to anyone who is willing to show up again and again with intention. No matter your starting point, no matter your background, the combination of vision, effort, and persistence can take you further than talent or luck ever will. Progress is not an accident. It is a result, and that result is created by people who understand that dreams don't manifest through chance. They manifest through action. Hans Rosling showed the world that progress is possible when we replace ignorance with knowledge, fear with understanding, and apathy with commitment. In your own life, you have that same power. The world around you improves when you take your dream seriously enough to work on it daily and to keep going, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Your belief in your dream is the first statistic that changes everything. Without it, nothing begins. Before any data is collected, before any results are seen, before any support is received, there is a moment where belief must be chosen. This belief is not in the external circumstances, nor in the certainty of success, but in the dream itself and in your ability to bring it to life. It is the internal commitment to an idea that has not yet manifested in the physical world. Just as Hans Rosling taught us to look beyond surface-level assumptions and into the deeper truths hidden in data, belief allows us to look beyond current limitations and into unseen possibilities. In every journey, whether personal or societal, there is an initial moment where something new begins, not with action, but with conviction. That conviction becomes the foundation upon which all later success is built. Without that foundational belief, ideas remain dormant. They don't get tested, refined, or expanded. Without belief, no plan is made, no risk is taken, no steps are initiated. It is like trying to measure progress on a road never traveled. Belief is the first metric. It is the first shift from 0 to 1, from nothing to something. When you believe in your dream, you create the emotional and psychological fuel required to begin. Belief acts as a filter. It determines what you see, what you focus on, and what you ignore. Two people can look at the same situation, one with belief and one without, and experience it in completely different ways. The one with belief sees opportunity, the other sees limitation. The one with belief sees problems as puzzles to solve, the other sees them as reasons to stop. Hans Rosling emphasized the importance of updating our world, you with facts, not fear. In the same way, your internal worldview, your perception of yourself and your potential, must be guided by the facts of human potential, not the fear of failure. The fact is, humans are capable of incredible growth, adaptation, and innovation. Your belief taps into that truth and sets the stage for transformation. Every major success story begins with a phase of invisibility. No one knows the dream but you. No one sees the vision but you. There are no followers, no results, no evidence. Just the idea and your willingness to believe in it. This is the most fragile yet most important phase of any dream. It is the phase where you are either building or abandoning the future. If you wait for external proof before committing, the dream will remain unstarted. But if you trust your inner sense of purpose, your belief becomes the first indicator of life, the first signal that something is possible. From that point, you can begin the work of creation. Belief does not mean certainty. It does not mean you know exactly how everything will unfold. It means you are willing to move forward without guarantees. You are willing to experiment, to try, to fail, and to adjust. That process is what gives rise to results. Even in data science and global development, results are rarely linear. There are trials, setbacks, surprises, but belief keeps the process alive. It keeps the energy flowing and the focus sharp. When Hans Rosling presented his data on global progress, he did so with a sense of optimistic belief, not because everything was perfect, but because the direction of change was real. That same optimistic realism is what fuels persistence in personal growth. The energy of belief affects everything it touches. It changes the way you speak about your dream. It changes the way you plan. It influences how you interact with others and how you handle setbacks. When belief is present, your mind starts finding solutions. Your body starts aligning with your goals. Your emotions begin supporting your journey rather than sabotaging it. Belief creates alignment between thought, word, and action. It sets a tone that others can feel. It invites support, resources, and inspiration that would otherwise remain hidden. The lack of belief, on the other hand, stops momentum before it begins. Doubt, when left unchecked, becomes a paralysis. It causes delay, distraction, and eventually abandonment. Many dreams never fail. They are simply never started. They are suffocated in the early stages by disbelief. That is why belief is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the first non-negotiable requirement for anything meaningful to be born. It may not be seen by others, it may not show up on paper, but internally it becomes the first statistic in your journey. It is your first yes, your first signal of commitment. When belief is strong, actions follow, plans are made, ideas are refined, resources are pursued. You begin to see small wins, proof that the dream is not only alive but growing. Over time, belief expands. It becomes a story others can witness and a journey others can join. It becomes a force greater than you, one that pulls you forward even when motivation fades. And all of that begins with one simple yet powerful decision: to believe.